Okay, here we are today at the Stave Falls Dam. And this is a BC hydroelectric power plant. It was built in 1907 by my grandfather, and then he ran it for many years and drove the train between here and Mission as an engineer on the dam, and operating the tugboats that I also showed you. Okay, so nice sunny day today in the wilderness here, but you're going to hear some construction noise behind me. There's a road behind me. There's helicopters going over. So apparently there's a van going over the dam right now. So apparently they're doing renovations. You'll hear some jackhammers, etc. So please excuse those. Today I'm talking about MEEN, M-E-E-N, Mass Epidemic Encephalopathic Nightmare. And I named this term on March 10th, 2020, publishing on that date in the Journal of American Medical Association, as well as Doctor's Guide, ResearchGate, academia.edu, etc. The COVID-19 virus causes pathology in the nervous system. Excuse it, wow, the wind really came up. I'm on the top of a mountain here overlooking the dam to get a good shot, but it turned out to be very windy. So I hope you can hear my audio. The virus is causing pathology in the nervous system, leading to irrational behavior. 80% of post-COVID-19 patients have some neurological sequelae. The most common and most frequent and most easily noticed is anosmia, the loss of sense of smell, or hypoosmia, which is decreased sense of smell, all the way to neurocognitive impairment, to neuropathies with loss of function, motor and sensory, to different areas of the body. Also a major cause of depression, anxiety, loss of quality of life, and to polyneuropathy, which is inflammation or infection and dysfunction of various nerves in the body, and myopathy, which is infection or inflammation or pathology of various muscles in the body, which would obviously affect their function. Encephalopathy, which is abnormality or pathology in the brain. Parkinsonism, which would cause stiffness, rigidity, loss of function, and tremors. And orthostatic hypotension appears to be one of the complications. So if you stand up too fast, you get dizzy, you can pass out, your blood pressure can drop. Guillain-Barré, which is paralysis, which is often fatal, but fortunately fairly rare, less than 1% of cases. And then stroke, cerebrovascular accident, or loss of function by damage to the brain, by usually a blood vessel either rupturing or clotting off or somehow impeding the circulation of the brain. 26% had neurological findings after 3 months. So by definition, this has become chronic. Now I want to talk about frontal lobe release. Normal inhibitory action is lost of the frontal lobes, which inhibit irrational and control one's behavior to some degree, and keeps people from acting, quote, crazy, unquote. This control of rationality is lost in these patients who have frontal lobe release, and on MRI it shows activity decreased in the frontal cortex, which goes along with it by testing. Leads to irrational behavior and MEEN, mass epidemic encephalopathic nightmare. 18% of all patients studied apparently had this. In 2020 USA, pandemic mayhem ensued, and this may definitely be caused, but may also be associated with the viral infection causing this frontal lobe release through direct effects on the brain. Again, the result is antisocial activity, and as we have seen, the effects in U.S. cities include rioting, looting, increased murders, increased gunshot wounds, increased interpersonal violence, increased destruction of public and private property, burning, fires, arson, etc. has all increased during this pandemic since the year 2020, so in the past year. Now I added nightmare to the name, so mass epidemic encephalopathic nightmare. Nightmare describes the consequences, but it also points out the fact that one of the most common neurological complications of COVID-19 is that the patient has nightmares, recurrent nightmares, or frequent nightmares can result. So that's why it was added to the name. That's why I added it to the name. And it seems to be one of the most frequent actual complications of COVID-19 is the production of nightmares. Now, usually people don't talk about this unless you ask them. Once you start asking them, you can see that way more than half of people have the production of nightmares after COVID-19 infection. So again, that was a brief summary of MEEN, M-E-E-N, stands for Mass Epidemic Encephalopathic Nightmare. You can read more in my references in JAMA, in Doctor's Guide, in ResearchGate online, and in academia.edu online. Okay, I will do follow-ups on this, and there are also many other videos on the complications and sequelae of COVID-19, and I will be including more of these as well on YouTube. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel, Gary Ordog. 2 words, Gary, G-A-R-Y, Ordog, O-R-D-O-G. Appreciate your support. Thank you, and stay safe, get your vaccine, and have a good life.